Greetings. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Judith Richards. I'm the creator of TRTP, the Richards Trauma Process. Let's talk about relationships. And today, our main topic is, am I sabotaging my relationship? And how would you know? Let's talk generally about relationships. We'll focus on intimate relationships. They take up so much of our time, our energy, our thought, our frustrations, our challenges. Our greatest area of personal growth is in our intimate relationships. So let's talk about this. Are you challenged? Do you face challenges in your relationships? The first thing to do is to look at the pattern. What's the pattern? I mean, sit down, get a pen and paper, and look back through your life at your relationships. Look at, is there any pattern that becomes obvious as you look back? Do you have a history of successful relationships? Are you one of those few people that I know, bless them? You know, there are a few couples that I know who, married their childhood sweetheart, and 50 years later, they're still best friends. They've had their ups and downs. Of course they have. But how do people do that? If you're one of those people, wow, huge congratulations to you. A lot of us are not. A lot of us have histories of dysfunctional relationships, to put it mildly. Have a look. Look back through your relationships. What is the pattern? Okay, let's talk about some of the patterns. Abandonment. Do you get into a relationship and then the person just says, well, that's enough and leaves? Betrayal. Do you get cheated on? In intimate relationships, in business relationships. Abuse. You get bullied in relationships. Is that the pattern? Now let's look back further. And I know people get, frustrated and, ugh. Okay, we're going back to childhood. Yeah. Well, yeah, we are. Because it's in childhood we're imprinted, we're programmed in those first 7 years. And that programming runs the rest of our life. That programming, that software, there's software installed in those first 7 years. And for the rest of our lives, that software will play out on the screen of our computer, the screen of our life. So how can we become the designers, the architects of our life? How can we change things? Do you feel like you're stuck in Groundhog Day? Do you want to change? How can we change things unless we become aware of what was the software that was initially installed into our unconscious? Because if we don't change that software, hello, welcome to the rest of your life, my life, our lives. It's going to be Groundhog Day, more of the same pattern. But how do we know what was installed? How do we know what that software is, what I call unconscious core beliefs? How do we find our unconscious core beliefs? Because they're in our unconscious. We are not conscious of what's going on in our unconscious. We think that our conscious mind has the keys, is in charge. Think again. It's scary. But science has proven that our conscious mind, that voice in our head, our conscious mind runs only 5% of the time. Think of that. It's a bit terrifying. Only 5% in every 24 hours, our conscious mind is in charge. The rest of the time, it's our unconscious running our body. Obviously, every chemical reaction, every electrical response in our body is run by our unconscious, which is a good thing because we don't have to think about keeping our heart going and digesting food and all of those things that our beautiful body does for us. So our unconscious runs our body, but our unconscious also locks in, that software we took on when we were little kids, those first 7 years. Those unconscious core beliefs lock in our patterns of how we think, how we feel, how we behave. So if we want to change our life, let's just talk about relationships. We want to change our relationships. Not necessarily the person we're in a relationship with, but if we want to change the pattern of our relationships, if we want to build warm relationships where we have a safe harbor and can be a safe harbor to the other, where we can listen, where we can be held, where we're safe, that'd be good in a relationship, wouldn't it? If we want to build that and we haven't just naturally created it, we've got a pattern of something different, we have to change. We have to get into the software, just like on a computer. You want something else to come up on your computer screen? Change the software. So that software is those unconscious core beliefs we took on in our early years, up to 7 years old. We'll talk about that more in a moment. If we change that, we will change how we think, feel, and behave. We'll change the circumstances of our life. We'll change how our relationships work. We'll change how we work. We can become the designer and architect of our own lives. How? By getting in to the programs. Okay, let me explain. Even before we're born, particularly that last trimester in utero, we're taking on ideas of, are we safe? Are we loved? Then we're born. For some people, that's life-threatening. So they come into this life a bit scared. People are trying to kill them. We're not going to go into that a lot in this podcast. We'll do that in another. But for those first 7 years, we're a little sponge. We're working in the theta, low frequency brainwave. What does that mean? It basically means we're in hypnosis. Our critical facility has not yet developed. So we're just a sponge. We're taking on information as fast. Little kids learn languages, learn everything so quickly. That's how it's supposed to be. Why? So that if anything goes wrong, we have the greatest chance of being able to look after ourselves. It's just, survival. So in those first 7 years, when we're a little sponge, we take on ideas. Who am I? Am I safe? Am I loved? What's my place in this world? Who am I in relation to this world? Einstein said the biggest decision that we make is whether we are in a friendly or unfriendly universe. Lots of us are born into families where we take on the idea, no, it's not friendly. We're not safe. That really impacts the entire rest of our life. I'm not saying that that's you. I mean, some of us take on the ideas that, the fabulous ideas, the unconscious core beliefs of I matter. I'm lovable. I'm easy to love. Those who love me will be there for me. They'll be a safe harbor. They'll be safe. I am safe. It's safe for me to have success. It's safe for me to fail. I learn through failing. How fabulous to have that software downloaded. Look at the Richard Bransons of this world. Unfortunately, that wasn't me, and it may not have been you. But how do we know what's the software that we took on? Because it's in the unconscious, and we are not conscious of what goes on in the unconscious. We're not conscious of every chemical reaction in our body, etc., etc. We're not conscious that this software that was installed, these programs, these unconscious core beliefs, are locking in our patterns of how we think, how we feel, how we behave. We're not conscious of it because it's in our unconscious. So how on earth can we become conscious of what's going on in our unconscious? How can we know what's the software? What's the unconscious core beliefs that we took on when we were little that are running our life? And in this case, we're just talking about our relationships area of our life, which is pretty darn big, that area. How do we know? We look at the pattern. That's how we know. Okay, so I'll use myself as a case history. Let's look at me, not because I want to be up there, but I just know me best, and I'm a good case study because I've been pretty messed up. So my pattern in my life has been, up until about the last 14 years, one of abuse and bullying in intimate relationships, in other relationships, in most relationships. Not all. I had some dear, dear, wonderful friends. But the main pattern in my relationship, and how do you find the pattern? Sit down and write out the top 10 to 12 most distressing events in your life, and not an essay, just the age you were, what's the name of the event, and who was there. Don't go into it. Don't spend weeks ruminating on it. Just bang, bang, bang. Don't traumatize yourself. Just have a look. What's the pattern? That will give you a snapshot. From there, you'll be like, oh, I've had clients do this. And so many have come back to me, oh my God, it's the same event, abuse or bullying again and again, just different people. Wow, I hadn't noticed that before. And we can tell what's the rest of our life going to be. It's going to be Groundhog Day. It's going to be more of that pattern. Why? Because that pattern is locked in by the software that was installed in us when we were little kids, locked in by the unconscious core beliefs we took on up until we were the age of 7. So as I said, we're born, we take on these ideas until we're 7. Where do these ideas come from? They can come from a person in a responsible role, generally an adult, but not always. It can be an older kid. It can be something that they say. We've got no critical facility. We don't just go, oh, mum's having a bad day. She doesn't mean that. She doesn't mean that she wishes I was never born. She doesn't want to be my mother and I'm a dreadful, dreadful child and I'll go to hell. She doesn't mean that. She's having a bad day. It just goes in. Can also come from a little person's perception of what's going on in the world. A little person is egocentric. They draw a picture of themselves and their family, themselves in the middle. Mum, dad, dog, cat, siblings around. It's all about that little person in the middle. And if something goes wrong, if there's a problem in that family, it may have nothing to do with that little child, but that little child, if they're sensitive, interprets it often, not always, but often as, oh, it's my fault. It's my fault that mum left. It's my fault that this happened. And that can become part of our software. So, using myself as a case study, looking at my pattern in my life. My pattern is very, very obvious. It's abuse. Abuse in intimate relationships, abuse in workplaces, abuse in family of origin. And until I worked this out, the whole rest of my life was going to be more of the same. But get the pattern And then you'll see what's locking it in. It will be that programming from your early life. Where's it come from? Our family of origin. Yes, it comes from what happened when we were a little kid and our interpretation of that. The most important thing that happens when we're little is how we attach. No, it's not like a limpet. It's just, how do we do relationships with those people who are most important to us? How did we do relationship, and how did our parents do relationship with us? Did we feel secure? You know, that we were loved, we could make mistakes, we could come back, there was a safe place for us. We'd be encouraged, we'd be lifted up, we'd be protected. If that happened for you, you won the lottery. You will most, probably have a secure attachment model. You know, it's easy for people to love me. I'm lovable. It's safe for me to love and be loved. Those who love me will be there for me. You know, it's safe for me to have success. It's safe for me to fail. Good on you. You've won the lottery. Some of us have insecure attachment or avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment, it's exactly what it says. Avoiding attachment so as not to be let down. Avoiding attachment because it's not secure. Avoiding attachment because it's not safe. And so what happens is we grow up, is we find ourselves in relationship and the other person who at first we love is getting closer and closer, and we go, oh, this is not safe. It's not safe for me to love and be loved. This is the programming that went in. It's not safe for me to love and be loved. If I let somebody close, it's going to end really badly. Those who are supposed to love me will hurt me, will abandon me, will betray me. Just get the heck out of there. Do we consciously decide this? No, we just get really uncomfortable. Consciously, we may be going, yep, this person's the one. They have all the attributes I've listed off, and they're the one. Consciously, we can be thinking that, but unconsciously, our 95% may be going off going, no, are you nuts? For those Australians, it can be going, you're dreaming, from the film The Castle. But if the unconscious is not in sync with the conscious mind, if the unconscious programming is it's not safe to love or be loved, we will unconsciously sabotage that relationship. They're getting close, I'm getting uncomfortable, I want to get, and we sabotage it. We don't wake up one Monday morning and go, oh, yes, it's a lovely day to sabotage my relationship. We're not stupid. But it's our unconscious that run things. Am I saying that failed relationships are always because we have sabotaged them? No. No. Sometimes we get into relationships with people who will never have a successful relationship. They may have narcissistic personality disorder or something. But, you know, it's a funny thing. It's our unconscious programming that makes us a target for that person. So I had lots of those sort of relationships with those sort of people. Why? Because of that early programming, the unconscious core beliefs that I took on, that software that was downloaded for me, which I don't matter. I'm shit and I deserve to be treated like shit. I deserve to suffer. I deserve to be punished. And I took on the idea I attract violent lunatics. Why did I take on that idea? Because that was my early life experience. And I was told it was my fault. What did you do to that good man of God to make him do that? So these early life experiences, this early life programming is what's responsible for the way that we do relationship. It's responsible for our patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior. It's responsible for every electrical impulse in our body, every chemical reaction. It's responsible for the situations that we create, the relationships we create. It's our conscious mind runs 5%, our unconscious is running everything. We better get in there, know what's been programmed in. How do we know? Look at the pattern. Is it working for you? If it's working for you, go you. You've won the lottery. But if it's not, you can look at the pattern. It's pretty easy to change that unconscious programming. I'm putting together programs so that you can do it yourself. But at the moment, you're going to have to find a TRTP practitioner. But they'll teach you how to run your own programming. You know, there's a lot of courses on manifestation, and yep, you can manifest anything. Why do affirmations not work a lot of the time? Why does manifestation not work a lot of the time? Because with our conscious mind, we want something. But if our unconscious, because our conscious mind's only 5%, the unconscious is 95%. Our unconscious, 95% is not on board, is not in sync. We're dreaming. It's never going to happen. Because our unconscious's job is to keep us safe. If it thinks it's not safe to love or be loved, that those who love me are going to hurt me, those who are supposed to love me are going to hurt me, it will keep us safe out of there. If we have the unconscious core belief, as I did, that I'm shit and I deserve to be treated like shit, we will be drawn to those who will treat us that way. And we can change it, because unless we do, the rest of our life will be the same pattern. My wish for you is for you to become the designer and architect of your life, to be able to uninstall unhelpful software and install the helpful. More is coming, but in the meantime, get in touch with a TRTP practitioner. But go gently. We don't have to be in so much pain. We don't have to continue in relationships that fail. We can get to a place of, you know what, it's safe to love and be loved. The rest of our life can be completely different from what's back there. Go gently. Thank you.